You are listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live.
Hello, welcome back to the Claret and Blue podcast. My name is Dan Rolinson and we've got something a little bit different for you this afternoon. We're doing Fantasy Premier League. I'm joined by Tom Freeman from Fantasy Football Scout. Tom, I've got to apologise first of all for getting you on a podcast in the top room of your house on the hottest day of the year in UK records. How are you, apart from sweaty?
Yeah, hot, but all good, and looking forward to having a chat about FPL and Villa as well. So, looking forward to it, Dan. Thanks for having me on.
I'll get it out of the way early doors. I'm very much a casual player. I think my team name last year was gone by September because I'll kind of miss an international break maybe, and I'm captaining somebody who's injured for 3 weeks and I'm miles behind and I give up and that's it. But this year I want to be better. I want to be more motivated. I want to actually pay attention to the details because Fantasy Premier League is a big deal. Like, it's a very serious thing for a lot of people who take it really seriously. So, I don't want to go to the massive degree of searching team news for clubs at the bottom end of the Premier League that I don't care about just for my fantasy points. But I want to be more involved than I have been in recent years. So just tell us a little bit about yourself and your involvement with Fantasy Football Scout. And you've played some pretty good finishes over the years, haven't you? That's where I want to be.
So, my name's Tom. I am the deputy editor of Fantasy Football Scout, which is a website dedicated to FPL and other fantasy games as well, like Sky Champions League fan team. But FPL, I think, is the main focus there. I started a year ago, so this is my second season now, and it's a busy time over there, a bit like for you, Dan. We're covering pre-season, tracking all the minutes, who's playing, new signings, that kind of thing. So it's a pretty exciting time over there, and the season is fast approaching, isn't it?
It's a very busy time of year, isn't it? There's Villa are playing their second pre-season game tomorrow as we record this. Not quite sure when this episode comes out yet, but the game has launched. It feels like it's launched a little bit earlier than it did last season, maybe due to COVID and stuff. So I want to get my team ready for that first game week and be hopefully top of the league straight away and build off to a good start.
Yeah, I think it's great if you do get off to a good start. You instantly feel more confident in the decisions you're making and things like that. But what I would say is that if you do lose a bit of ground, don't lose faith, because there's normally a lot of double game weeks at the end of the season. There's a lot of points to be, even if you're 100 points behind the leader after 5 or 6 game weeks, all is not lost. It's a long season. And just because you have a good start, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a good end. So there's a chance to pull back points. And we'll basically have a chat through the team, and we'll try and get you to at least make it till Christmas and hopefully doing well. And that'll see you through till the end of the season.
Okay. Right. I like it. A bit of motivation early doors. I'm already feeling pumped up. So I think how we're going to do this episode then is I'm going to build a team as I would if I was playing this on my. I was saying to you just before we started, I feel like there's almost like 3 kinds of player for Fantasy Premier League. Really casual, we'll maybe pick a team and tweak it here and there. Kind of a mid-level that will keep it up each week but not go super in depth, and then a top level that are tracking pre-season for minutes played and stuff like that to really make the best kind of decisions and looking at fixtures for who's got the best start to the season and stuff like that. I don't think I'm ever going to be at that top end level, but I'd like to be closer to the middle rather than just pick a team now and forget about it. Sure. So I'll pick a team as I would. It'll probably only take me a couple of minutes. I'll pick all the pretty obvious big hitters, and then I'll probably make a lot of silly decisions as well. So I'll pick that, and then you can kind of review my team, give me some tips, give me some advice, and then I'll make a second draft with your input. I also want to start by saying I'm going to impose a rule upon myself. I'm not going to do this on the whole league that are going to be joining us with Claret and Blue, but I want 3 Villa players in there. Do you want to just run through some very basic rules for people that maybe are at the casual level that don't even know much about Fantasy Premier League in terms of how many players you pick, the budget you work with, and stuff like that?
The basics of the game are that you pick a squad of 15 players. So you've got 2 goalkeepers, 5 defenders, 5 midfielders and 3 forwards. You've got a budget of £100 million to spend. The cheapest player in the game will set you back £4 million. and you're not going to be expecting much for that. If they're even playing, you get appearance points for that. So that realistically is probably as much you can expect there. Occasionally, 1 or 2 gems come out of the woodwork, which we'll touch on in a bit. There might be one player at 4 million that we can rely on for a bit more this season, but 4 million's the cheapest. And then you're going right up to Salah, who's the most expensive player in the game at 13 million. So you're building a squad of 15, £100 million. Maximum, as you touched on, Dan, 3 players per club. So we can't fill our squad with 11 Villa players, unfortunately, or fortunately in some seasons. So you get points basically. There's a lot of different things, but your main points are coming from goals, assists, clean sheets. But there's also things like appearance points. Goalies get a point for every 3 saves they make as well, and there's bonus points handed out as well to the 3 top scoring or the top scoring players in the bonus point system. So they get additional points after. If you've got a player who's scored a brace, got an assist or whatever, it's very likely that he's going to get 3 bonus points too. You can make 1 free transfer each week, which you can roll over as well. You can get up to 2 free transfers. You can't go beyond that though. And if you've got 1 free transfer, but there's 2 moves you want to make, you can do that, but you'll be taking a 4-point hit, which I always try and minimise, because it's only 4 points to some people, but that's a big deal to me, because that's a goal scored by my player. You think how happy you are when your player scores a goal in FPL. You don't just want to take that away by taking a hit on that player next week. I think that's touched on most of the basics. The places of the priors can move depending on how many transfers in they get. You might go and look at a player one day and then 2 days later he's gone up by 0.1 million. That's just because how many transfers he's had in. FPL can be a very simple game, but it can also be more complicated if you want it to be, and you can find yourself checking price prediction sites and things like that. But that's really for the engaged manager. So we won't go too far into that today, Dan. I think we'll kind of keep it relatively basic, and then if people want to delve further into that, they can do.
Now, what's a good score for a player to get, and a good score for the team overall to get on average?
Well, it kind of depends on the player. I mean, your big hitters are generally your premium players, your Salahs, your De Bruynes, your Son and your Kanes. They're consistently returning. If a player like Kane scores, he's going to get a minimum of 6. If Kane scores, quite a lot of the time he'll get bonus points as well. So it really varies. But with your captain, you want to be getting 1 attack in return with it at a minimum, really. But then if they go big, then you're absolutely laughing. A good game week score, a level which I kind of look at each week, is about 60 points. As an average score in a game week, that's kind of like a marker for me. In FPL, you don't have to have incredible weeks where you're going beyond that. You just don't need to have too many bad ones. You need to be consistently kind of average, and then have the good, occasionally a good game week where you hit the captain, and then that can elevate you up. I've always found that if you can keep in touch by just having consistently good scores. I'm
kind of already got a few pointers that I know that, good attacking fullbacks maybe is a good shout here.
Yeah,
obviously
really
creative midfielders are better than holding midfielders. So somebody like Boubacar Kamara, who looks an absolute player, by the way, probably isn't a great fantasy Premier League pick if he's going to be playing at number 6 for Villa. Maybe centre-backs aren't great for Villa either, because we don't seem to score many goals from corners. So I might avoid somebody like Diego Carlos, who again looks a good player, but might potentially not be a great FPL player.
Yeah, and he's coming at 5 million as well, whereas Mings is 4.5. So I don't think he's going to quite offer enough upside, and we'll talk about it in a bit. But the fullbacks at Villa are probably where you want to be putting your money as well.
So I'm going to try and do this as quick as I can. Then it's almost 10:30 as I record this. So let's see if I can do it in 5 minutes, because, like I said, I wouldn't spend too long on this. Really, did you just laugh?
Well, that's putting a lot of pressure on yourself for 5 minutes. But let's see if we can rattle through it, and then we'll spend a bit of time kind of dissecting it.
Okay, so goalkeepers. There's a lot around the 4.5 mark that are probably the best shout. I like Martinez, but that'd be one of my Villa picks gone straight away. But I do think that is a good option, so I'm going to put him in there as a preliminary shout at the moment. A lot of people I know just put the Villa, like if you have to pick a Villa first team keeper, to then put Villa's reserve keeper as the second choice, because if Martinez doesn't play, then Olsen will play.
Good shout.
that makes sense for me at the moment. So, but that'd be 2 Villa players, and that seems like a waste. So I probably won't end up doing that later down the line. But we'll go with that for now because I know that is a decent strategy.
Yeah, I think just getting a £4 million of goalie, regardless of who it is a good strategy, and just play Martinez for the first 5 or 6 game weeks.
Trent is an absolute no-brainer for me. I'm just going to stick him straight in there. I'm also going to do the same with Salah, I think. I know he's the most expensive, or Kane maybe. I'm going to go Kane as a definite pick as well. I think there's guaranteed points with Trent at right back, and Kane is going to score goals, isn't he? A midfielder, again, I might run into budget problems in a minute here. I'm tempted by De Bruyne as a definite pick as well, although Salah's class as a midfielder, and so Son as well. It is difficult, isn't it? I think Man City will win the league, so I'm going to go De Bruyne for now. I know a lot of players avoid some Man City players because of Pep's kind of heavy rotation and he don't rely on them too much. I mean, Salah is a definite for points, so he might end up back in there later. My Villa players, Cash or Dean, I think one of those should be in here. Cash is 5 million. Is Dean 5 million as well?
Yeah,
Do you know that? He is.
Yeah, they're both 5.
I'm going to go Cash because he seems to be linking up quite well with Bailey down the right-hand side at the moment in pre-season. Bailey might be a wild card shout later. Centre-backs, is that just something that people avoid these days? Is it you just go with attacking full-backs?
Not all the time. There is some value there. You look at a team like Man City and Cancelo is 7, but you can get the centre-backs for 6. So it depends what you do with that money. I think you definitely want to be looking at generally the full-backs, but there is instances when you don't want to completely rule them out because sometimes they can offer a bit of value. So, I mean, I think you've picked two good full-backs to start, but if you find the right centre back and you think they can do well, no harm in sticking them in.
Oh, this is difficult. I said 5 minutes. I'm not going to be able to do it in 5 minutes.
I did say right. So I mean, a good thing if you're struggling, you can look at fixtures for the first 5 game weeks, and we've got a season ticker over at Scout, which is free to use on the homepage. Go in and have a look in. If you remember, you can sort by difficulty, but even if you're just looking at the season ticker, basically a blue fixture is a good fixture, a red fixture isn't as good. And so you can kind of see instantly, Arsenal, for instance, have got a good first 5 fixtures. Wolves come out pretty well as well. On that, they've got Leeds, Fulham, Newcastle and Bournemouth in the first 5 game weeks. So that's a way, if you're feeling a bit confused by it, if you're not sure about who to pick, you can have a look at a season ticker and that might guide you a little bit.
Well, there's 2 clubs there that you mentioned that I had my eye on as I was scrolling through, and they are Tierney at Arsenal and Cody at Wolves. Yeah. Because I think Wolves get a lot of, if Bruno's still going to be there for the season, they'll get a lot of clean sheets, I think, because their style of football isn't the best, and it does pop up with the occasional goal as well. The defender's difficult. I'm tempted by Robertson, but I don't know whether that kind of uses up way too much money on my defence at the moment. But I'm going to stick him in there as a bit of a placeholder for now, because I think both Liverpool fullbacks are going to get guaranteed points. I like the idea of Jesus at Arsenal as well.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to start every single week. How much is he? 8 million? Okay. 2 Villa players at the moment, because I don't think Olsen's going to stay in there. So there's Martinez, Cash and one other. I think it's going to be a midfielder, because I'm not sure about Watkins and Ings. I don't know whether it's going to be one or the other or both.
Yes.
Cameron Archer is also an option, but I think he's 4.5 million. And so if he gets some minutes, he's a good shout off the bench as well. It's between Ramsey and Coutinho. Ramsey's $1.5 million less.
Yep.
So I'm going to go Ramsey for now, but I would like Coutinho in there potentially.
So which Villa player are we taking out? Did we take out Olsen, did we?
I'll take out Olsen, and we'll just put another random 4 mil keeper in there.
Million. Yeah, makes sense.
Carl Darlow at Newcastle, just because he's the first one.
Yeah.
So Martinez, Cash and Ramsey are my 3 Villa players at the moment. I've got 24.5 million. So I think I've got to go big on another midfielder rather than the striker. Again, I don't know what system I'm going to play here. Maybe 5-3-2.
Once you've picked your next first team player, we can fill out those spots with some really cheap players for your bench. You're not going to be turning to very often at all. So as long as they're playing, that they kind of do a job.
I'm quite tempted by Sterling, to be honest. I think Sterling might have a really good season for Chelsea. He's 10 million, which is maybe a little bit more expensive than I'd like. But De Bruyne, Ramsey and Sterling maybe as a 3. And then the 5 defenders and 2 strikers. It's a bit like Jesus, who you've picked. Suddenly they've gone from being squad players at Man City to being
featuring much more prominently at their new clubs. And Sterling and Jesus, when they play, can be really explosive options. So now at their new clubs, where you're going to expect them to start week in, week out, they're potentially very good this year.
So I've got 3 positions left and 14.5 million. So I mean, this is only just about mathematically doable, even if I've got cheap players. So I really am struggling there. I don't know whether I'm going to actually be able to make this team the way I wanted to.
Yeah, I'll leave you to. Okay. I was going to say basically you could probably, you've got to think about your third bench spot. So you can go really cheap with that player. You can either go for a 4.5 forward and a 4.5 mid. I'd personally stick both of them in there, and then see what's left for your final sub. Because you're very rarely going to call on these players in the first few weeks. Everybody's hopefully going to be fit. Everybody's hopefully going to be starting. So as long as you can rely on your first sub, you should be all right. A
4.5 midfielder. I mean, there's not many great options there. Murphy, Gilmore, Longstaff, James Milner. I mean, I don't know how many minutes any of these guys are going to play. I like Skip at Tottenham, but he's the defensive midfielder, so he's not going to get many points. I'll stick him in there though, just for the sake of it, because I don't think Milner's not going to play much this season. I wouldn't have thought. 4.5 forward, I would say Archer, but I've already got my 3 Villa players in there. Although I could switch out Martinez. I think Martinez is a good shout for goalkeeper. I think he'll be quite popular.
But all you're going to get is an occasional sub appearance from these guys.
Yeah.
But, unless we're lucky and somebody like Delap gets a transfer in the next couple of weeks, and I think he was linked with a move to Southampton, wasn't he, in the press? So we might get lucky, or Greenwood might get a few minutes, possibly.
Now, if I've got my imposed rule of 3 Villa players. I was about to say if I could have 4, but the game doesn't allow you to have 4. So I can't have Archer anyway. So I'll go with Delap, just in the hope that maybe he does get a loan move to somebody else, and that gives me 5.5 for my final midfielder. Which, I mean, that's not terrible. I think John McGinn's 5.5. Obviously, I've got my Villa players done. Anthony Gordon at Everton, potentially. It's not a bad shout. Neves. I'm going to go with Gordon for now. I don't know whether that's a good pick or not, but that's my money used exactly. It's an okay team. I don't think I'm delighted with it, and there's definitely changes I could make.
It did take us, 9 minutes or something?
Yeah, so 9 minutes.
We've rattled through that pretty quickly, to be fair. So
9 minutes isn't bad. Oh, team name? Yeah, I forgot to pick a team name. You have to do that at the end. I've actually got 3 options that have been sent to me on Twitter. I want you to pick me one, just because take the pressure away from me. So there's 3 that I like. I've got them in an order that I like. First one is Rowley with the Brolly, which looks better written down than it does said out loud. Obviously, Wally with the Brolly. McGinner's Look, which I do really like. McGinner's Look.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And the third one was Come Dean With Me, which I also really liked. Come Down With Me.
Oh, okay. That's quite a tough one. I like the McGinn one, though. I think that would.
Yeah, I do.
That would be my pick of the 3. So, especially as you're you're reinventing yourself this pre-season, Dan, and coming back stronger next year. So. Yeah,
McGinner's Look is entered into the Claret and Blue League. I will put the link to the Claret and Blue League in the description of this YouTube video or podcast, wherever this ends up. So do come and join us. We always say we'll do a prize for the winner, and it kind of gets lost down the line because I lose interest. But we will do a prize this year, I promise. Don't know what it'll be. We'll sort that out in May. Yes, that's McGinner's Look entered. Thanks to whoever who sent me that name on Twitter, by the way. That is a great shout. So I've got Martinez in goal, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Cash, Tierney, Cody and Robertson, De Bruyne, Ramsey and Sterling, and Kane and Jesus up front, the North London pair. Carl Darlow, Oliver Skip, Anthony Gordon and Rory Delap on the bench. Gordon's probably first choice off the bench, I think. Pretty decent starting team from my casual player experience. So I'll hand over to you and let you rip it apart.
Let's tear it to pieces. I'm only joking. No, it's a good team you've built there, to be fair. I'll definitely have a few tweaks. So should we go from back to front? Should we start with the goalies and then work our way through? Is that all right? Yeah. So the goalies, it's a little bit different this year. Normally, the premium goalkeepers like your Alissons and your Edisons, they're normally priced at 6 million. But FPL this season have made the cheapest goalie is 5.5 million. So you won't pay more than that for anybody in the game. And I think it's a reaction to the appeal of the wing-backs. Last year, they weren't a premium goalie wasn't really a viable option because the wing-backs were also priced at 6. But this year, they've brought them down in price a little bit. So what you've got to ask yourself is Martinez is a good shout at 5 million, but for 0.5 million more, you could get an Alisson or an Edison who are naturally, or even Lloris, who are naturally going to keep more clean sheets than Villa. I think that's fair to say. Or you could drop down to a 4.5 if you wanted to push a little bit more money into your midfield or your attack. There's David Raya at Brentford for 4.5, Robert Sanchez at Brighton. So that's probably where I'll be looking. But I've got 4.5 in my draft. But if you're happy with Martinez, and they have got a good first few fixtures, he's got pedigree, Martinez. A couple of years ago, he was the highest scoring keeper in the game. Last year, he disappointed a little bit in FPL. But that could be something that you look at maybe in goal. Either you go up 0.45 to a premium or drop down to a 4.5.
I mean, you expect Villa to be better this year with Diego Carlos in there and Kamara sitting in front of the back four as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, Martinez has got to break Brad Friedel's clean sheet record at some point. So if he does get 15, 16 clean sheets this year, like he did the season before, that's probably a really popular pick at 5 million. He's also one of my Villa 3. So if I did change him, I could swap for Archer maybe on the bench, or maybe move Ramsey in for Coutinho as well and drop somebody else down in there like a McGinn or something like that. I'm semi-happy with Martinez at 5 though, I think.
And I think that links to the defence with Cash as well, because like you say there, Cash offered quite a lot of goal, a bit of goal threat last year. He started every single game as well, and minutes are really important in FPL. It's nothing worse than having a player who starts season and they get dropped to the bench, and they're getting pulled off after 55, 60 minutes. You want them to be consistent. You want them to be regular starters, and Cash ticked all of those boxes. Dean came in January and is probably a bit more creative of the two, I think. But I think they're both good options. And like you say, Kamara's coming in to sit in front of the back four. Carlos is coming in. I mean, Villa under Gerrard felt like a mid-table defensive team, I think. But after a full pre-season, new additions coming in, I think we probably all feel a bit more optimistic, don't we, defensively this year? So I think Cash is a really good pick in that defence as well. You've got Alexander-Arnold in there. I would maybe consider switching Robertson to Cancelo just so you're splitting that coverage a little bit. So you would expect Liverpool and Man City to do very well at the start of the season. I think City kept 5 clean sheets in the first 6 game weeks last year. Liverpool kept 4. So Robertson is a very good option. I'm spreading it. I'm gonna go Cancelo and Alexander-Arnold rather than the 2 Liverpool fullbacks.
I think just back to Cash. I think with him being the same price as Dean, it's obviously a very easy swap to do 1 Villa out, 1 Villa in, depending on who's most in form and which kind of side of the pitch Villa tend to favour. I like both. I think that's a very difficult. If you just said, you can only pick one of those 2, they've got to be in your team. I think that's a very difficult split. I'll go with Cash just for now, just to stick with that.
Yeah, I really struggled with it at the end of last year. We had a double game week in game week 37, and as the kind of resident Villa fan, everybody was saying Dean or Cash, and it was such a difficult thing to say and make people go because they both. And so everybody was dissecting the formations when we play with Ings and Watkins. Is that better for Luca Dean? Is Cash better when? And it was, and the FPL community is so passionate, and they're analysing how many shots they would have and things. But it's just a really tough decision. They're both good options, so I think whichever you go with, I think they're gonna do all right at the start of the season.
So what do you think of Cody and Tierney then?
I think they're okay options, but what you got to remember is there's 2 cheaper options at both teams which you could kind of plug into. So if you like the Arsenal defence, Tommy Arsu's at 4.5, and if you like Wolves, they've got the fullbacks or the wingbacks last year. I think they might switch to a back 4 this year, but you've got Johnny and Aït-Nouri at 4.5. So there is cheaper options there if you want to save yourself a bit. But what I would do with this, you spent 10 million on Tierney and Cody. I would actually switch them for Reece James, who is 6 million, playing as a wing back under Tuchel, averaged about 6.3 points per match when he started last season. Loads of attacking threat. And we spoke about the 4 million defenders earlier. You're normally not expecting much from them, but Nico Williams has just moved from Liverpool to Forest. We think he's going to start as a wing back under Steve Cooper. Obviously, Forest probably aren't going to keep loads of clean sheets, But naturally from that wing-back role, he's going to offer a bit of threat. So personally, if that was me and I had £10 million for 2 spots, I would personally go Reece James and Nico Williams as well.
That's a good shout. See, I would never have thought of that because I would just thought, yeah, get a couple of cheapish centre-halves in there. I mean, Cody will score a few goals. I do like Tierney. But yeah, splitting
They're
them
not
and
bad
going with
options
somebody
at
like Reece
all,
James is a good shout.
You actually get a premium in James, who I think's underpriced at £6 million if he's starting week in, week out. And the key to it is Tuchel remains using wing backs. If he does that, I think you'll be laughing with that pick. And then Williams as well can step in when you need him from the bench, really.
How much do you look at kind of betting against the trends that other people are doing? Because I've seen a lot of people picking somebody like Perisic at Spurs, who I think he's £5 million, and expecting to play wing back and do well under Conte. But it feels like everyone's picking him, so I kind of don't want to pick him just to, again, split the difference and hope that he doesn't do that great or doesn't start even, and I've looked clever by not picking him.
It's risk and reward FPL a lot of the times when you're betting against players. The thing is with the Spurs wing backs is they were really good under Conte. Tottenham's defence improved massively under him. But there's a lot of wing backs there. There's so many options. You know, Perisic is, I don't think he's started a pre-season friendly yet. I think he's expected to play a few minutes, but we're only a couple of weeks away from the start of the season now. Time's ticking. Conte places a lot of emphasis on fitness. Will he be ready for game week 1? I'm not sure. And they've got Sessegnon there, Reguilon's still there. You go over to the other flank and it looked like Doherty was going to be first choice, but they've signed Spence from Borough this morning. So Spurs wing back, it feels like a bit of a minefield for me. If Perisic is going to play, he's going to be a brilliant option, and I'll probably look at getting him in. But at the moment, might feel a little bit risky.
So that's defence done. That's ripped apart, ripped to pieces, and changed around.
We kept
a bit of the core there, didn't we?
We kept forward, didn't we? I think so. Yeah.
We'll split the midfield into 2 parts, then the cheaper options and the 2 expensive ones. Now I'm already kind of regretting Sterling as I look at his price. I think there's probably maybe better options at 8 or 9 million rather than 10. Ramsey, I think, is again going to have another good season. I think we'll start every single game for Villa if fit alongside Kamara and one of McGinn or Louise as things stand, unless Villa sign another midfielder. I think he scored 6 goals last season, and you'd want him to get in 6 again, and obviously closer to double figures if possible. So I think Ramsey's a good shout. I think he'll get assists as well with the way that he carries the ball deep into the box and then dragging it back for somebody. So I like Ramsey. I think that's a good price. Skip, I don't know too much about Skip really. He's a bit more defensive, but he's only 4.5 million, so I don't imagine I'd play him much anyway. Gordon at 5.5, I do quite like that shout. And like you said, I think he will play for Everton. Everton are a bit of a risk for me. I don't know what they're going to be like at all. They could kind of be much better and finish around mid-table and have a great season, or they could be kind of relegation threatened again, which would surprise me a little bit. I think they will be better now. So I don't mind that. De Bruyne is a pretty obvious pick in terms of the stature that he is, but maybe I could get a better player like a Son or a Salah in there instead. And then I'm still not sure on Sterling, because if he settles into Chelsea, I think there is a bit of a spark to be reignited there. But if he doesn't settle or it doesn't quite hit the ground running, then that's 10 million that's wasted.
Obvious player you're missing is Salah. He's the most expensive player in the game, but there's a reason for that. He's
and everyone else is going to have him.
He's going to be massively owned. He is such a reliable captain in FPL, Salah. I mean, I feel like he became almost, there was a period last year where he was just an auto captain. You didn't even have to think about it. We left him with the captaincy for 8 or 9 game weeks in a row, and he was just consistently putting up those numbers. I mean, he's got over 230 points for the last 5 seasons in a row. So you know what you're getting with Salah. Mane leaving, is that going to dent Liverpool's kind of attacking numbers? I don't think so. I think they've got players that can step up. But if it was me, I would get Salah in for De Bruyne. And then I would possibly drop down Sterling to one of the £8 million midfielders. Now, the £8 million midfielders, there's about 7 or 8 really good options in there, ranging from Luis Diaz at Liverpool, who looks set to start the season. Jota's got a bit of a knock, I think, so he looks a bit more assured in terms of his minutes. But if you're not so keen on that, there's players like Mount, Saka, there's Maddison, there's Kulusevski. So I think if you went up to Salah from De Bruyne, then dropped Sterling to an 8 million, and then you got 1 million in the bank as well,
Yeah.
well, we might be able to look at another area possibly.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of talk about the 8 million midfielder on social media, that if you don't pick the right one, basically, that I went for Mount, for example, and he had a stinker at Chelsea in the first couple of weeks. It's a very easy switch to go to one of the others that you just named that I've already forgotten. Yeah, De Bruyne for Salah, Sterling for one of those £8 million players, and I think I'll probably keep the rest for now, because I think striker's probably where there needs to be a little bit of improvement potentially.
Yeah, what I will just say, Dan, before we go, and if you don't like Skip, there's a player called Andreas Pereira who's just moved to Fulham from Man United. He's 4.5. Yeah. He's at least going to start. I don't think he's going to offer you much more than that, maybe the odd assist. But if you want somebody in who's at least going to be playing, that's who I'd get in there.
So my three strikers, I've got Jesus, Delap and Kane. Now the obvious one that I'm missing is Haaland. I'm going to be, again, almost a little bit betting against what a lot of people are going to be doing. Something about Haaland where everyone's like, oh yeah, he's going to score 50 goals, whatever. There's just a part of me that thinks like he could score decent numbers but get a silly injury or something, or having a load of pressure on him or something, or not quite adapting to City's system, and everyone's going big on him, and then he doesn't actually perform. I'll probably look stupid in a few weeks when he's scored 10 goals in the first 3 weeks or whatever. But there's just something about it that makes me think, you know what, I'm going to be different and not pick Haaland just because everyone else is. So I've got Kane in there because I think Kane is guaranteed points and is a good captain option, obviously alongside Salah as well. Jesus is a bit of a risk again. Obviously, got to settle into Arsenal, but he will be the main man up front, I think. And if Arsenal have a good season again, or improve, obviously, and get into the top four, I think a lot of goals will come through him. Delap is obviously a bench option and could probably be certainly improved. Am I being stupid by not getting Haaland in there, do you think?
Well, it's a bit of a risk because his ownership is going to be massive in game week 1, but I think Spurs arguably have the better fixture at first. They're at home to Southampton. City go to West Ham, where they struggled a bit last season. And they're the same price. So what you could do is you could start with Kane, watch those matches in the first weekend. And then if Haaland looks lively, you could switch in game week 2 because City have Bournemouth at home in game week 2. So that might be something. If you're not sure about it, you could at least get to see him play for City before then deciding what to do. But I think Kane and Son have probably been a little bit overlooked. You know, they were incredible under Conte last year, and I can certainly see why people are starting with Kane over Haaland game week 1, and then see what happens, and then switch if you need to. I do like that.
What about Jesus?
Yeah, great option again. The only other player in that bracket which I was looking at would be Watkins, who's 7.5. But I think Jesus, again, you know, minutes has always been the problem with these types of players. But now at Arsenal, he's going to be a bit more of a talisman, I think, for them. And you've seen in the pre-season friendlies, he's really hit the ground running. He's scoring goals. He's looking lively. So both of those picks, I wouldn't really get you to change them, to be honest. I think they're both really good.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. So I've took out De Bruyne, I've got Salah in there. I'm now looking for these £8 million players. Maddison is the top from points last season, 181. And you got Saka, 179, Mount, 169. And Ward-Prowse, 159 points last season. He's only 6.5 million. I do like him. Southampton have a better season. Also like Gallagher at 6 million. Obviously still looks like he's staying with Chelsea. I don't know how many minutes he'll actually play, but if he's starting games for Chelsea, I don't mind Gallagher as a shout at 6 million. Taking your advice with having somebody that's worth 8 million because they're an easy switch to another option who's 8 million. I'm going to go with Mount, I think, because I think he will start for Chelsea every single week. Yeah. So that's Sterling out, Mount in, De Bruyne out, Salah in, Ramsey, Gordon and Skip are still in there. So I'm going to change Skip to Pereira from Fulham. Now, I do like Ramsey, even at 5.5, so I think I'll stick with him just as my Villa choice. I do like Gordon, though. I do think that's a semi-decent, underrated shout. So let's have a look at what 6.5 million gets me in midfield instead.
Ward-Prowse is he's consistent. He's generally a 90-minute man. He's on penalties there, which is set pieces are really appealing. If you can get somebody on free kicks and corners and penalties, that's obviously great. There's also there's Ward-Prowse there. There's also somebody like Rashford. Now he's coming off the back of a really poor season, and that's why he's dropped by I think 3 million. I think he's down to 6.5. So if you think Ten Hag's going to come back in and he's going to boost their attacking numbers a bit, and Rashford's going to play. He's been playing in pre-season. that's not a terrible pick. He could be underpriced by FPL if he's starting. Ward-Prowse is definitely the safe one out of those two. But I know a few people have been looking at Rashford. Sancho's a little bit more. He's 7.5, but could be good as well. But I don't hate that Rashford pick to start the season with Brighton and Brentford at first for Man United.
I don't mind Eriksen at Man United either. I don't know how many minutes he'll play, but I think that's a decent shout. There's a few players around this market. I like Gallagher, like I just said. Odegaard at Arsenal, Smith Rowe at Arsenal for 6, Trossard at Brighton for 6.5, St Maximin for 6.5, Martinelli at 6, McGinn, as I just said, 5.5, but he'd be go with my Villa limit. Buendia again, 6 million. Decent picks there. I mean, I was quite happy with Gordon at 5.5, but the calibre of player for 6 and even 6.5 probably is a step up. I think Ward-Prowse, like you said, is the safe pick. He'll be on set pieces.
Really appealing.
Fitness is good. He'll play every single week, so that uses up all my money. So no room for manoeuvre there. But I do like Ward-Prowse. I think that's a better option than Gordon anyway.
Delap's going to be your third substitute every week. You've got players like Andreas Pereira and Nico Williams who will be ahead of them on the bench. So I'd be very, very surprised if you need to call on that third sub spot anytime before you play your first wild card. So I think that's my strategy. I'm going in with a 4.5 striker. He probably won't play, but I don't think I'll need them.
So now my starting team looks like this: Martinez in goal, Trent, Cash, James, and Cancelo. I mean, there's points in that back four, isn't there? Bloody hell, there's some good points to be had there. I think Salah, Jacob Ramsey, captain. No, I'm joking. Mason Mount and Ward-Prowse, Kane and Jesus up top. I'm still not massively convinced by Jesus as a shout, but like I said, he could be swapped for an 8 million midfielder instead and go for just Kane up front and stick somebody back in there.
Yeah, or you could switch your keeper and get Watkins in if you wanted to.
Save some money on the keeper and go for somebody like Watkins. What's Ings' price?
He's 7. Watkins is 7.5. So Ings is really good. But what do you think, Dan? Do you think we're going to start with 2 up top, or do you think we're going to start with Watkins as a lone striker?
I've got a feeling we might see 4-2-3-1 a few times. Kamara and Ramsey maybe a bit further forward than instead of a 2, more like that.
Yeah.
Doesn't really work. And slightly further forward. Maybe Bailey on the right. Buendia in the middle, Coutinho on the left, and one of the strikers up front, and that front three be interchangeable behind one striker. Yeah,
Ings is a tricky pick then, isn't he? Because we can't guarantee minutes. If we knew he was starting, and he'll probably be on penalties as well after Coutinho's miss the other day. So he would be a good pick, wouldn't he? But I just don't think you can. I think Watkins has got is the more reliable player out of the two at this moment in time.
What do you think of Bailey as a Villa shout? I think he's only 5 million. Like so if I'm kind of looking at Anthony Gordon going 5.5's decent. If Bailey gets a bit of, he's obviously got to stay fit, but he's had a good pre-season so far. If he does start off the right or off the left in a slightly tweaked formation, Bailey at 5 million could be a steal.
Absolutely, yeah. He came in last year. He cost about 25 million, wasn't he, from Leverkusen or something like that? And he just couldn't stay fit, could he? Showed glimpses of potential, but because of that poor season, he's dropped from 6.5 to 5 million. So 5 million, what does it get you in the game? Very, very little. So if he's starting and you think he's going to start those first 3-4 games, he could be an absolutely great enabler, which an enabler is basically a cheap player, enables you then to go and stack up on your Salahs and your Kanes and those type of players. So Bailey's actually found his way into my draft at the moment. I'm going to watch them, watch Villa tomorrow against, is it Brisbane, I think, tomorrow? Yeah, and then Man United at the weekend. Yeah, and then Man United at the weekend, and just monitor the pre-season games and see how it's looking. But if it looks like he's going to get started, I think Gerrard likes him. So I think he wants to give him the opportunity. But yeah, he could be a really good player at 5 million. Yeah,
well, I'll be miles behind in own Haaland scored a hat-trick in the first week, so I'll probably have given up. No, I'm going to try and be more consistent this year. Let's see where we are. I was going to say 6 months down the line, but just get through the first month first, like I usually do. Tom, thank you very much for your time and coming on and sharing your expertise and your advice. My team is certainly better now than it was in the 8-minute draft I did, first of all. I'm quite happy with that. I think it's a decent team. I think my Villa bias might have leaned towards Ramsey there, and I probably should have moved money around a little bit and got somebody a bit more proven at a top 6 club rather than Ramsey. But I said I wanted 3 Villa players in there. I'm going to back a pretty cheap Ramsey at 5.5 to deliver again.
That's been great. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Dan. And looking forward to the season. And if anybody's kind of into what we've been talking about over the past hour or whatever it was, then have a look on Fantasy Football Scout, because we're tracking all the pre-season friendlies there, and there's loads of little helpful tools and things like that. So if you fancy it, go and have a look.
Yeah, I'll put the link to your stuff in our YouTube description and our podcast descriptions as well. So just scroll down and you'll find that. You'll also find a link to our Claret and Blue Championship or Claret and Blue League. We had loads of entrants last year, but like I said, I lost interest and didn't really keep on top of it. And James Rushton, when he used to work with us, he started all this stuff and he was in charge, and then he left for a different job, and then it all kind of went downhill from there. I'm going to be in charge of it this year, so there will be a prize that goes out to the winner, maybe a new shirt or a mug or something signed. I don't know. We'll work it out over the next few months. So go down, get involved in our league, try and compete against us and the other guys at Claret and Blue as well. Tom, can you not join, please? Because you'll walk the league, won't you, with your finishes?
Well, you say that, but you never know. There is, you can plan all you like in FPL, but there is an element of luck as well. You're playing in the crossbar 1 week, score the next week. So it's not. I didn't have a great season last year, so if I do join, it doesn't necessarily. It's not a given that I'll be in the top 5, 10 or anything. But maybe I'll monitor from afar.
Like I said, join the league, check out Tom's stuff, and we'll see you again after the Brisbane Roar game, because this is coming out before. I've just set myself a deadline that this is going to come out on Tuesday night. So enjoy Brisbane Roar tomorrow. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you for listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do let us know. We love hearing your feedback. We'll be back soon with another episode, but until then, up the Villa.